Hey team, one of the athletes that I coach asked me a question, and that is how do you structure a year of running? And I have actually two athletes that I'm currently coaching right now. One athlete is trying to break the 3 hour marathon, and he's about to turn 60 years old. This guy is in great shape. He's got a personal best of 3 hours and 4 minutes. And the other athlete is training more is a more of a middle distance runner, is trying to get his 5K time down to much faster speeds, and he wants to eventually run faster over the longer distance as well. But he also has a long-term approach and is training about a year long in duration. And so in terms of how do you structure your year of running, it's complicated because again, there's a lot of, as you all know, there's a lot of variables that go into running at optimal levels. You have to make sure that if you're training for a longer period of time, you're not rushing your fitness. So you have to make sure that you're putting in recovery weeks. My opinion, and the way I coach and the training plans I focus on that I've created and the running courses that I've made, there's a focus on a recovery week, usually every 3 to 4 weeks. So volume is slightly dropped. The intensity still remains about the same, but you want to have a recovery week, lower volume, and not as intense, so that again you're keeping your overall fitness at a high level, but again you're also allotting sufficient time for yourself to recover, because you cannot continue to push the body anaerobically for a long extended period of time, especially for a year, and expect to get really high returns on your investment. So we break these training cycles up into periodization. Okay, so usually that's why I always say a longer buildup is better than a shorter buildup. If you're training for a marathon, it's a much better strategy to focus on a 4 to 5 month buildup or even a 6 month buildup, rather than trying to cram all of your training into a 8 to 12 week buildup. Of course, there are athletes out there that can still get phenomenal results training for 3 to 4 months or 2 to 3 months. But again, it's going to be more of a challenge, especially if you're trying to run a sub 4 hour marathon or a sub 3 or 3 hour marathon, or even trying to go under 2 hours and 30 minutes or faster for the marathon. You have to give yourself between 3 to 4 weeks just for your body to adapt to any stress that you're placing on it. So right now, if you're having a difficult issue trying to run 5 miles at, say, 7 minute mile pace, okay, you have to at least give yourself between 3 weeks to a month before you really can fully adapt to that particular pace. So again, structuring your marathon buildup or your 5K buildup, I think is important, especially if you're training for a full year. I would focus first on building your endurance, spending some time, several weeks building your aerobic base, placing in some strides, 5 to 6 100-meter strides 2 to 3 times per week, especially in that early easy aerobic base building phase, where you're not really doing tempo runs or you're not doing track workouts or fartlek workouts, but you are staying consistent with your aerobic mileage, and you're introducing those strides. Because again, most athletes don't realize that in terms of strides, you may not think that you're doing that much, but over a several month period of time, or especially over a year period of time, you will have spent several miles or several kilometers at all out sprint speeds. Because again, those strides are cumulative. Okay, so that's why it's always really important to continue to work on your leg speed, but also know that you can still add in those strides and on top of doing not only your aerobic base building phase, but once you start getting into the specific phase of your training, especially in a full year of training, you will have been able to really do many miles, many kilometers of all-out sprints on top of all of the other workouts that you're doing. Okay, so in terms of how do you structure your running, I would definitely focus first on building your aerobic base, and that's going to take several weeks. Again, if you're training for a full year, first focus on that. First focus on building your base strength, implementing those strides, and then start working on some track workouts where you're focusing on your VO2 max, you're working on extending your tempo runs, and then implementing some time trials within that specific phase of your training. Okay, that might be midway into or a quarter of the way into a full year of training, where we're starting to really start implementing track workouts. We're going to be focusing on doing tempo runs, but gradually extending the distance of your tempo run as you go through this 1 year of training. Okay, early on, you don't need to be focusing on doing, like if you're training for a marathon, you don't need to be focusing on doing 16-kilometer tempo runs or 10 mile tempo runs. First, focus on starting off 2 to 3 miles at tempo effort first, so that you can adapt to that. Okay, it's going to take time for you to get to a point where you can do 10 miles at tempo effort or 16 kilometers at tempo effort. So again, you have to have, especially the longer your buildup, the more you need to focus on not being in a hurry. Okay, because it's very easy for us, because we're already very motivated as athletes, to want to get in great shape, but you don't want to get into phenomenal shape too early in your season. Okay, rest breaks are key as well. If you're building for a full year and you have a long-term approach of a full year, I would always focus on at least a minimum of between 2 and 3 weeks off completely during that year of training. Okay, normally in my 1 year build-ups, I would normally run 2 marathons, and again, I would have anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks off. So anywhere from 2 weeks to a month off during that 12-month block of training. So again, it's not wise, if you're doing a 1 year training build-up in terms of your structure, to continually train the full year without giving yourself any breaks. Okay, not over racing. Okay, I think it is important to do those time trials every few weeks, just to test your fitness, or jumping in a race every few weeks or every other month just to test your fitness. I think that's important, but not trying to run all out every single workout that you do or every single race that you compete in. That is another strategy that will lead to eventually staleness and frustration if you don't give yourself enough recovery and rest throughout this longer buildup. So when you're structuring your training, and this is again kind of the mindset that we have, the athletes that I'm training right now, is we do have short-term goals, we do have long-term goals. We have time trials implemented throughout the year. There's constant communication, obviously through email or even through Zoom calls. I do periodically have Zoom calls with these athletes that are working with me one-on-one each month. So that's important, obviously, and making sure that you have a plan in place and you have a mentor that at least that you can reach out to, someone that has experienced what you want and has done something that you may admire or done something that you're seeking to do or do even better. That's important. Obviously, the longer your build up, the more you have to focus on the other fundamentals that go into running a great races and setting new personal best. And again, it's not just the physical training that we do, it's the mental preparation. It's spending time, about 10 to 15 minutes daily, visualizing what you're wanting to do in terms of your short-term goals and your long-term goals, and not just spending all of your focus just on physical training. Okay, physical training is absolutely critical. You can't just visualize yourself to running a sub 3 hour marathon or breaking 18 minutes for the 5K or running a half marathon in an hour and 45 minutes. Okay, that's not enough. Okay, you have to combine both physical training as well as the physical aspect, as well as the mental aspect of preparation in order to really jump in terms of your ability levels. Okay, so structuring running, focusing on first building that aerobic base, going into the specific phase of training where you're focusing more on running at your goal race pace or close to it, then going into your speed phase of training, and then going into 3 weeks of taper or 10 days, which is what I prefer. Okay, that's a strategy. And then the better strategy is complete rest, giving yourself 2 to 3 weeks off completely. Just enjoy some time off. Again, this is a full year. This isn't a three month block of training. It's not a 5 month block of training. It's a year. So if you don't give yourself that time, you're not going to be able to continue to push hard for 12 consecutive months. So definitely pay attention to that. And that's some of the things that I really think are very key in terms of, how do you structure a year of running. And obviously there's other factors that go into performing great over the middle to long distance races. But first, focus on building your aerobic base. Then start working on your speed and really trying the very best you can to run as fast as you can over the shorter races. And that's going to help build your confidence, build your motivation to then go into those longer races that maybe you've never tried out before. Okay, the faster, the more track workouts you do, the more hill repetitions, tempo runs, that is all going to help improve your body's lactate tolerance. It's also going to help in terms of recruiting those fast twitch muscle fibers that are absolutely key in terms of making you a better middle to long distance runner, better prepared, and your ability to clear lactic acid more effectively throughout your race, and optimally be able to sustain your goal race pace for the entire duration of your race and not just a portion of it. So I hope this is helpful in terms of how do you structure your year of running. It's very hard to answer that question in a short 10 to 15 minute video, but I hope these tactics and strategies help you all in your build up. Obviously, you all can leave comments below my videos. You all know that I'll definitely reach back out to each and every one of you. The strategy that I have here at RunDreamAchieve, the RunDreamAchieve YouTube channel, is to respond to every single comment that I get. So definitely check out the resource below my videos. If you want to get some merch, definitely check out the RunDreamAchieve merch store, as well as on RunDreamAchieve.com. There's a lot of options that are there for you, training plans, running courses, as well as coaching if that's something that you're interested in. And I will talk to you all in the next video. I wish you all the best in your training and your upcoming races.